The following is brought to you in part by a grant from the Foundation for White Wellbeing.
Have you ever had a dream that Have you ever had a dream
The hardest thing about being a Westman is everyone saying you're persecuted much less than. Meanwhile, they hide all of the torture you've been through and all the persecution modern day that continues. We need to retribalize and give our family jobs. And if another race does the same for the cause, get back to living life how it's supposed to be lived, where culture can survive and there is no conflict. Continue diversity is an insane way of life, and children not seeing race is of the biggest lies. This goes beyond me, I am defending my son. And if you don't have any children, you still father every one of these kids who need protection. So objection to the flood, immigration, devastation, all our nations rise above. The flame doesn't die when you pass on the torch, so use it to shine light to help these kids know their worth. These wonderful little minds are all that we have, and once we pass on, I'm unsure if we'll come back. So I'm living for today and focus on the fact that this is for the future, yeah, the cubs of the pack.
This thing that's facing us is bigger than escaping us. When we're gone, life continues, so save
And in most countries they don't allow you to homeschool, but raising a child is supposed to be what homes do. It's clear as all get out that they want to indoctrinate. A better environment away from you is just not the case. You know your child better than anyone does, and you will not be alone cause we've been rebuilding us. Shout out to School of the West, Dean Danger's the best. When it comes to good curriculum, it's where to select. When it comes down to the children, we cannot hold our breath. Get them away from degenerates, flashing violence and sex. Like I said, retribalize and start building next. The Westman Library emergency is not a test, we need to
vocal team stop.
This thing that's facing us is bigger than escaping us. When we're gone, life continues, so save the children.
I never hate my race, but until recently I didn't know history class was jacked completely. Found my new family with the team going free. My old family doesn't understand me, cause I am so pro-white. No coke, no Sprite, I am rolling with the public, gonna be more white. I saw them twist history right before my very eyes. Insurrection Day, it's in the book and it's all lies. But now I am alive and well to tell it, but will generate generations down the line be able to sell it. I've always been a thinker on the search for both sides, but they label me an outcast and they cannot tell me why. Guess I'm just a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So why does affirmative action make them not hire me? Even in the countries where I'm the minority. Is my rage just that awesome and no other could compete? Is that what the anti-whites are trying to tell me? Why am I always seen as such a threat? To the point they want to strip me down till there's nothing left. Old friends from high school, man, I haven't kept one, but I got a new crew and it's where I belong. Cause if you ain't going free, you ain't rolling with me. And there are even anti-whites in my own family, but I am the one who's comfortable with myself. I try to save them from the hate so wildly raising hell. Cause I'm the black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. I heard that Scotland is too white, is Nigeria too black? Don't get your panties in a bunch, cause I have the right to ask. See, I'm the black sheep, cause I call it hypocrisy. And the media will give you emotions, but they will not give you honesty. Yeah, you have your feelings, but I have the crime rate. And I'ma shoot to kill if there's a danger my way. So I do not blame the cops, just the ones who are cowards, who hesitate to pull the trigger unless it is one of ours. Cause he's a black sheep, white boy who doesn't hesitate to make a lot of fucking noise. I'm the black sheep, white boy, and I wouldn't change a thing if I ever had the choice. Cause the red's the color I bleed. Yes, we all do bleed red. I have to protect my family. So I put people to death.
All right, we're rolling in here. We're going to be getting right into rolling and going free. Great to see those who have shown. Yeah, we started at 7:50 rather than 8. I think I might try to walk it back to 7:30, and we'll see. We'll see if people can show up. Can you all hear me okay? Is this thing not the right height, not where I want it? Audio is great. Thank you. Wonderful to hear. Big salute to everybody. Big salute. Great to see you all kinds of things going on in the world. I think we're going to grab a few news items a la carte in just a moment and have a quick look at them, including this Trump at the Black Reporters Annual Convention. Because you know that Trump would show up to a white reporters annual convention. And what's that? No, we don't just bitch and gripe here. No, we actually make a difference in the world. It's no point. It's to do nothing. To say, oh, he would never go to a white person convention. No. Yeah, we know that. Boy, it's like a nightmare. It's like being in an endless nightmare. I show up and I'm like, wow. So for years, I show up and I'm like, y'all been complaining about this a long time. And they're like, yeah, we have. It's really unfair. You see, it's unfair. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I agree. I concur. After I look at all the information, I totally concur. And then I say, so what do we do? What do you mean, what do we do? This is the thing we do. We complain. And I was like, well, that's not very white. That doesn't sound very white to me. I thought we do things. See, I thought the white race did things. What we do, we're the epic builders. We build and we conquer and we create Westerns. We do no, well, not your particular bunch, apparently, because your particular bunch are optimally trained to bitch and complain and do nothing whatsoever. So then they said, what are you trying to do something? Are you trying to make a difference? Are you scientifically approaching our victimization? What are you even thinking? You're out of here. We're never letting anybody talk to you. We're never letting anybody hear from you. Sounds muffled. Oh boy. I thought the mic was great. This is not going to work with my patience today. All right, I see. Well, maybe we can make an adjustment. Let's do this.
And then you can tell me whether or not it's working differently. Is it less muffled now? You know the saying, never seen a grown man cry. How about a grown man burst into fire? How about a grown, maybe that would finally get through the censorship. Grown man burst into fire. Probably not. LG is here. All right, it seems like the mic is back on track. Jay Bishop, Raymond Foster, Cool Papa J Magic, Timmy Bobinson, Rune, Pants, Timmy, and Timmy. Manuel, Stewart is here. I grew up with a Stewart. Great to see you all. Please share. White Girl is here. Ben is here. Spud Ruggers. Like Comedies. Great to see you. Playing some of that Like Comedies. There's the great Fornell. He is first. He made it here first. Of course he did. Because he is mostly of divine essence. Let's see. Ben is here. And so is... I saw a name that said cute something. Was it like cute face? It went by on the... YouTube's always messing with me. Where was I? Blowing up. And I'm like, let's fix things. And they said, how dare you? How dare you want to fix things? We will ostracize you for that. You are not allowed to do it. We are just complainers. So instead we fix things. And it's really just I got to tell you, this chair, it's got this lower back support. I got to move the bit around the back part of the chair up and down because it's not quite right. It'll fall down again and I got to move it around. But when I have it in the right spot, man, it's just like, hallelujah. That is the lower back support. You know, the lower back is certainly not supposed to go like that. It's not even supposed to go like that. It's supposed to go in a little, and you're sitting and it's trying to just, it's like, how do you keep a really good posture down there when you're sitting for long hours? Not very easy. So you have this little bit on the bottom of the chair, and you can buy a pillow and one of these lower back. They've been around forever, but I highly recommend them. Anyhow, where were we? So we fix things here, and I'm just checking to make sure all the platforms are good. I would like to have a conversation with you. Make sure you tag me as No White Guilt over the course of this gathering. We are on numerous platforms. They all are working. I've done my checks. I've already invested in some redundant pieces of tech to make sure that we don't have any issues again, or at least in the hopes, like we had on Sunday. And it appears that everything is working. And you tag me as No White Guilt across the board. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your questions. I want to hear what's going on. Who are you trying to bring away from anti-whiteism? And if you would like to financially gift over the course of this gathering, you can do so at the Foundation for whitewellbeing.com or .org. That's a 501c3. It's tax deductible. And when you make a financial gift there, cite yours truly, Jason Köhne, No White Guilt, as the target of your financial gift. Deeply appreciated. You can also financially gift at Cash App. It's up and running. Subscribe Star will be monitoring as well. D Live will be monitoring. Rumble is running. And well, let me just check again. Yes, it is. No more than $1 on Rumble, please. And also Odyssey is up and running. And I will look for your financial gifts at those locations, as well as Entropy, which is indeed up and running. But let me just actually make a little background. Let's take a look at the back end of this. We're going to get into just a little clip from Donald Trump today. Right now, he's speaking in Pennsylvania. Earlier today, he was in Chicago, and he attended this Black Journalists Annual Conference, and they attacked him. And Kumswalawa was supposed to be there, and she reneged. She backed. What a surprise, huh? The mass media won't be talking about that, will they? That she spit and didn't show up. She didn't go the full distance. I mean, she spit and didn't go the full distance. And so nobody's going to be talking about that, though, of course. But they attacked Trump. And what was the reason for him even going there anyhow? I decided when I saw this today, I was like, who's running this guy's campaign? Like, who is it? This guy named Chris LaSavita and Susan, she goes by Susan Wiles. And they're both ancient and fossilized, and they are old school GOP. And so this is clearly the effort to tell Black people how much the Republican Party, how much Donald Trump is going to do for Blacks. My whole life, I've been watching this. And like so many other millions of people in the United States, I lamented it. I was like, what in the hell? Why is it that the GOP the Republicans are so hell-bent on appeasing all these different groups? And I swear, and of course we figured that out later in life. By the time I was a preteen, and continue to this day, but not only figuring out, but how to stop it. So those who don't want to engage in how to stop it, they're useless turds. I'm kind of trying to hold back. I'm holding back some. The people who talk, in my opinion, the people who talk about what's going on in the world without giving time to how to fix it are useless turds. And if anybody says to me that, well, Trump has to say these things, or some other Republican has to say these things, they have to do these things to get elected, it means that they also say, well, he has to do those things. She has to do those things while in office. Actually can't do anything for us while in office, or else. And so then what's the outcome, dipshit? What is the outcome, you vegetable garden? The outcome is you've given excuses for them for the totality of the campaigns, for the totality of their tenure in office, to not do anything for white people. Because think of the consequences for them. Look, if they're worried about the consequences, then they need to go flip burgers. You don't got to worry about getting shot or getting slandered or being thrown in prison for life if you're just flipping burgers. So if you're worried about these things, then get out of the role. And so this was pathetic. This was absolutely disgusting that Trump participated in this. And he shows up, and obviously it's Susie Wiles and Chris LaSavita who are saying, no, you've got to go to the African Americans, and you're going to go to them and you're going to tell them how much you love them and how much you're going to do for them. And it's never worked. It's never worked. It has never, ever, ever, ever worked. But you know, these people, Susie and Chris, are getting paid big money. They're paying for their boat payments, their wonderful vacation, their boomer cycles, their numerous houses, their mortgages. They're paying for all kinds of wonderful shit with these big salaries that they get paid. This woman, she was born in like the 50s, or at least she looks it. Who knows when La Savita was born, but old as well. They trot out these fossilized, and they're like, you've got to go. And they're making their big money. I guarantee you, La Savita has a boomer cycle. I guarantee you. And he gets respect everywhere. And what is the outcome for our country? What is the outcome for our people? What is the point of even participating in politics? If this is the outcome, if this is what they do, He's gonna show up at this place. The very opening question. Look, first of all, he shows up Chicago. You know what I would do? They invite me. I would say, "Fuck you." If I was in Wiles or Las Civitas role, I would say, "Yeah, Mr. Trump, Mr. President, tell them to themselves." Or you want me to do it? I'll tell them. Because what's the point of going to unless he's going to go and tell the truth? Which is the truth of this is, and then he could just do mic drop and walk off the stage. Just say, hey, black population, all the goodies in this country are going to the invasion. And that means there aren't going to be any goodies left over for you. So if you vote for Kamala, then all the goodies are going to go to, and all the goodies, and maybe define that. Say all the goodies from the absolute giveaway, welfare giveaway, food giveaway, the payment for entertainment, payment for travel, all of it on the backs of the lion's share paid for by the white working class. And that's going to go away, but also all the business grants and forgiven loans and on and on and on and on. On and on and on. All of that is going away because America just won't be able to finance it, i.e. the white working class of America. So you vote for me or all that shit goes away. Drop the mic and walk out. It's that simple. You all get shit tons of preferential treatment, special privileges, and freedom from responsibility. You want that to keep going? Well, then you got to vote for me and walk out. Instead, he's like, I love the black people. I do. Is he ever going to say he loves the white people? Of course not. And why is that? Because there is no white people. There's a white race, but there is no white people. Then that's what we're trying to remedy. And that's what all of these gooners out there are busy trying to prevent people and successfully preventing people from listening to us or finding out what we're doing, the work we're doing here, the colossal, replicable successes, scalable successes that we have here. They're absolutely preventing people. The Gooner Brigade are out there preventing people from finding out what we're doing, which creates a people out of our deracinated race. The reason the president is never going to say, I love white people and on about it, and I'll do all this for white people. I'll make sure all of that for white people. How dare you question my fealty and subservience to white people? The reason he doesn't do it is because we just have a race of selfishly individualistic, gooning vegetables. That's why. So we need to create a people. We are the only people who are working on the well-being of whites. And so that's just the reality. That's the reality of it. So here this guy goes, I want to hear from you over the course, and maybe we'll throw in a Twitter space because we didn't get to do one on Sunday. Please let folks know that we're live. The censorship is through the roof. It is through the roof. The anti-whites that are at the top can obviously see the value of what we're doing. And so they're trying to kill it with this shadow banning, silencing. I mean, you just had goddamn this absolute, and I don't know what the hell's going on with this guy. In fact, maybe I won't even mention it. The great Azimuth Clark is here. All right, what did I want to do? I wanted to see if this was working properly. Is it working properly? All right, it is. Okay. I just had to reset that screen. So let's go ahead with our Leviathanic victories, and we will evaluate what happens with old Donald Trump when he goes over to the, not only does he go to the blacks only annual reporters journalist conference and get dragged on the floor by these people. Not only does he do that, but would never attend a white journalist event, but if he even contemplated going to a white journalist's event. And that the reality of that is what we have to change. Vegetable garden, that's what we have to change. Let me see.
Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today.
Can you hear that fine? Let me just make sure that YouTube isn't, even though it's fair use, totally legal, is YouTube gonna? All right, thank you.
You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States.
Now, remember, this is the opening of this. This is the very first question. And Trump is obviously affronted by this. And she's intentionally giving umbrage to him so she can get high fives and probably some kind of weird ass handshake from the other reporters, because that's what reporters do, you know, weird handshakes. And so she comes right out, totally insulting. You know, she would be as obsequious, as fawningly, lick-spittlingly obsequious to Kumswallowa if Kumswallowa had bothered to show up. But she's not. She's too busy being on the campaign trail talking about how in her first 100 days, she's going to attempt to repeal by executive orders our right to self-defense. At least that's what it sounded like to me and others who were reporting on it.
Which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser.
Look at Trump. He's like, you got to be kidding me. You got to be kidding me. Obviously, I would absolutely come out swinging on those, but he comes out swinging in a little bit of a different way. But I would demand to know if people victimizing me, if their blackness is some sort of shield that makes them immune to criticism. Is that what you're saying? That if people are Black, they can't be criticized when they attack me? Or if they're non-white in general?
They're saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with...
Yeah, this is for no Alaskan. We're in Africa. Yes. Effectively. You got 12 to 13% of the population. Black females are about 7% of when you take out the males. And of course, this is the Black reporter journalist annual conference. They get to have that. But Black people, 12, 13% of the population are everywhere, because in the anti-white narrative, you worship them.
With a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking...
Yeah, and that is what Nick Fuentes is, the albatross that he hung around Trump's neck. Just a self-promoting, that's what he is, self-promoter. It didn't matter what he claims to have loved Trump and is supremely loyal to Trump, and then hangs that around Trump's neck.
Black supporters to vote for you.
Notice that she didn't mention that with the white supremacist was a Black nationalist. But of course, that's fine in the anti-white narrative.
Why should Black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. First question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country.
Would he ever say that he loves the white population?
I've done so much for the black population of this country.
Would he ever say that he's done so much for the white population? It's such a disgusting insult. And what's worse is that the remedy to this deep indignity over the totality of our lives is fought most fiercely by those who claim to be concerned with white well-being or with the victimization of whites.
Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for.
So employment for blacks, opportunity zones. Opportunity zones. It's so tough to be black in America. The most powerful people in the world, the most powerful institutions in the world, the most powerful government in the world, doing backflips and whatever, doing the worm on the ground, whatever it is for the black race. That's got to be something. Yeah, tell me again how you're oppressed and how white people have something called privilege. Motherfuckers.
For black workers and black entrepreneurs. Done so much. And, you know, and I say this, historically, black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke. And I saved them. And
so the all black, effectively blacks only universities were out of money. How is that even possible? Talk about the corruption. Talk about the waste. And we could just go on and on. Where did because all of those loans are given freely with both hands to black students, freely with both hands by the white race. And it's coming right out of the lion's share, white working class. And somehow these institutions end up broke. And then Trump comes to their rescue so that he can cite what he's done for blacks. He comes to here's more of the white population's money, hard-earned money, ingenuity, tenacity. Remember, the money is our actual labor of our lives.
Gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said, you can't do it with Zoom. Well, where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love
if you
can
can
answer
a
the
very
question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered the
black voters
question.
should trust you with another
I
4
have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln.
So a measurement of his value by which president has done the most for blacks. We live in such diseased times. We really do.
That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace.
All right. So that's what Wiles and LaCivita threw Trump into. This will be a good opportunity to show black people how much you love them and how much you're going to do for them. Won't be saying anything about, now, again, as I was talking about on Sunday, if you were here, if we had white millionaires show up and finance a white positive ADL with the only formula on earth that's working. I mean, it's been plagiarized. The guy who plagiarized now got made $1 million off the book, his plagiarism. And the only thing that's working in the world, we could go out there and we would be able to make politicians this fast have to give us lip service. We would shut them down immediately. They wouldn't be actually doing anything for us at first, but you've got to see how this plays out. But, you know, here's the reason why we have this problem. The gravitational pull in our lives today is, where did it go? I'll just open it anew. Oh no, that's it. Is to anti-whiteism, the anti-white immoral moral imperative. And so we don't stand a chance in hell by way of the traditional angles, traditional methods, of course. I just want to show an example that just speaks directly to that. 21-year-old becomes youngest female mayor in U.S. history.
The 1-year-old is following in her dad's footsteps and also making history as she does it. The youngest woman mayor in U.S. history, Brooke Huckabee.
Okay, look at Brooke, little Brooke Huckabee, 21 years old. She's going to manage being the mayor of this town with her studies and her part-time job. This is for real. So you might be saying to yourself, I don't understand how it jives. Like, how does it connect to who's voting for her? This is the gravitational pull in the anti-white narrative. The anti-white narrative says that girls are all powerful, all good. You watch movies, and most recently, that at least I heard about, the Star Wars movies, where feeding the vanity of females, you have girls step up. They need no training. They need no history of education in a martial art I'm just talking about fiction right now. And then they go out there and they perform better. They're able to beat their male colleagues. And we see this across the board in fiction. Little females, little girls step up to the plate, metaphorically, step up to the plate, and they crush. They crush not only intellectually, mentally, emotionally. They crush physically. They defeat males in sports. They defeat endless slews of guys in combat. And these are, it'd be one thing if you were to imagine a universe where the female that is doing the fighting is like a demi-goddess and she's fighting against mortal men. Then I can get, well, she's got some sort of supernatural powers. No, they take like regular girls and they go on. And so what is the consequence? We talk here all the time that the subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between reality and fiction, does not know the difference. So in people's lived experience, females kick ass. Females can get the job done because the vast majority of their life is lived in fiction. And so what happens when a little girl, a 21-year-old young woman says, I'd like to be mayor? Everybody votes for her. She'll make it happen. And, you think about it, these guys, I know there are people out there that are saying to themselves, well, how can the wife who henpecks and who dominates her husband or her boyfriend, how can she make him vote for what she wants? Because he can go into the voting booth and just vote whatever and then go back out and tell her. Apparently, you all aren't thinking about it long enough. Because if the wife's selection doesn't win, the husband or boyfriend pays for it, whether he voted for her or not. Because he's got to live with her temper tantrums. He's got to live with her bad mood. He's got to live with her being upset over the little darling. Now, she would have fixed everything. Are you sure you voted for her? You're on the couch. So you damn well better believe he goes in there and he's like, please let this bitch win. Please let her win so I can have peace at home. So I can have peace in my relationship. But what a great, you have these examples everywhere. And for those people who are observant, thinking people, they see all of this and they derive general principles from it. And the principle, one of the many principles of this, is that when you're dealing with the general public at large, you're dealing with people who are living in a fantasy land that was created for them by entertainment. And everything in entertainment, like it didn't need, like, you have so many people, because I get it, because you're a midwit idiot who think, well, there's got to be some operator pulling wires behind the scenes that figured out exactly how to. No, the way it works is this way. Anti-whites creating entertainment invert our norms, mores. They do everything they can to harm, to white erase, to destroy. So elevating our little girls, our females, our young women, to superior positions in entertainment to the males is a natural consequence of anti-whiteism. Those people creating those plays, writing those novels, making those TV shows, TV movies, silver screen movies, the people doing that, they don't have to at all consider, have any idea whatsoever that it's going to create a mentality in the population that causes them to think the 21-year-old girl is going to fix everything in the town. For real. For real, for real. Right? They don't have to contemplate that. They don't have to deduce that. This is the natural consequence, the gravitational pull toward the black hole of our oblivion. That's how it happens. So you got this little girl, she's going to run up. I hope she wears like a tutu or, whatever it is. I hope all these guys going out there voting for her. You have the same thing happening right now in a story that we're actually going to get into. I mean, this is a la carte, but the story we're going to actually get into, you've got all these guys, dudes for Kamala. Foster Kennel is here. Hello to you. Marlene is here. Hello and welcome. Good to see you. Ivan the Horrible is here. Hello. And then what are we left with? Are little girls going to be able to be the valiant leaders? Well, they've never been for our people. In the movies, I mean, I guess all of these like Dorito-eaten, vegetable-brained losers of the white race are all wondering like, oh, golly gee, Martha, I don't have any idea why it didn't work out the way we thought it would. Why didn't she go in there and do spinning wheel kick on them? I mean, that's what she did in the movie, didn't it? Different female did that in the movie. Why didn't she just do spinning wheel kicks on them? I don't understand. She's gonna balance or going to college and a part-time job and being the mayor. No population in America would come anywhere close to electing me mayor. Not even of a one-horse town. They would be scared shitless. Because what happens with guys like me in the fiction? The villain, the bad guy. That's what happens. Get off my screen. All right, the one final story I want to just a la carte take a look at here is, I think it's funny. You all probably noticed that my stream on Sunday was taken down by YouTube. Some of you erroneously concluded, and it's okay, it's not your fault, that I got the stream put back up. But that's not the case. I stayed up all night long editing the video to remove any audio and any visuals of the Olympics. Because even though, and then I reposted that video. I had to make that video. I had to process the video. I had to process it into an audio only for Spreaker. I wanted to put it back up on Twitter because they took it down from Twitter as well, Elon Musk, because the Olympic Committee said, we don't want anybody ragging on our anti-whiteism. We don't want anybody showing how repulsive and disgusting it was. So we're going to demand, even though it's fair use and people are talking over the video and they're giving commentary on it, we're going to demand. And of course, YouTube was going to comply with that. There's anti-white as a day is long. There's anti-white as the rap sheet is long. And so they immediately sent me an email and they said, well, you didn't break the law. You didn't break our rules, but your video is banned forever. So I stayed up all night and I took out the audio. I took out the videos where you could see. I put a blank rectangle over top of the video where I showed just the repulsiveness, the anti-white repulsiveness, anti-white abomination that it was, the revilement that it was. And one of the people we talked about was the person, the obese woman who calls herself, what does she call herself again? A Jewish fat lesbian. I think it's what the other article said that she calls herself. Well, as much as she is able to give offense and derive so much pleasure from, remember, she actually was the one who said that it was indeed a mocking of Jesus Christ and the disciples. And she, as much as she loves giving offense to billions of Christians, she can't take any because now she's threatening lawsuits. Activists at Center of Olympics Last Supper threatens legal action over online abuse. Can you imagine? She can absolutely take a dump on our norms, on things that are cherished and of immense sacredness to us. But if you mock what she did, well, she's going to legally go after you. She can't take it. A French DJ, an LGBTQ activist, is taking legal action over online abuse. That's abuse. What they did was not even a parody, but if you criticize it, it's abuse. Regarding her role in the 2024 Paris Olympics opening ceremony's Last Supper display, Barbara Bush's attorney, Audrey Mizzoletti, wrote in a statement posted to Bush's Instagram that the DJ and activist who played Christ in the display had been the target of an extremely violent campaign of side harassment, defamation. What do you mean harassment and defamation? Pig, anti-white. You're anti-white. And I call those people that are that anti-white pigs. So you have assumed that category of your own volition. Mizzoletti said Bush was filing complaints against these acts, regardless of whether they had been committed by French nationalists or foreigners. Since the opening ceremony of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, artist, DJ, activist, and probably this Bush is paid for by French taxpayer dollars. She probably receives artistic grants from the French people to be an abomination, to be a revilement to Western civilization and to white people, to be a continuous affront to us. I mean, if anything, she should be able to take the heat in the kitchen. Am I right? Mizzaletti explained that Butch was threatened with, no way, threatened with rape. No way. There's no way. Rape? And then why would Butch object? That seems like that would be right up her alley. Threatened with rape. What a joke. That's more like she was threatened with a 5-course meal. Damn it, I will feed you. The opening ceremony featured a parody. Now there's the parody, and this is Breitbart News that's calling it a parody of The Last Supper, which it's just like a joke. It's just, it's innocent. That's what parodies are, in which Butch was in the middle, while drag queens and transgender performers stood on either side of her, some of them with their testicles hanging out. The organizers of the Olympics received criticism. All right. So I just wanted to point out that the video, Sunday's video, was yanked down by YouTube because the Olympic Committee said, take it down. We don't want anybody saying anything negative about us. Anything critical's got to go. And then, after that deep insult to Western kind, the criticism is totally intolerable. It's just a joke on their side, but then at the moment you criticize back, then it's lawsuits. This is what you're dealing with. But Susie Wiles talked Trump into going to maybe a transgender event where he can tell them how much he loves them. All right. Well, we wanted to talk about the immigration watchdog group VDARE becoming defunct. We also have this Women for Harris Zoom call, which is a fascinating clip out of it, because demonstrating, as we've talked about here, that white women are no longer needed by anti-whiteism, not like they used to be. And so increasingly, white women are getting the white male treatment. And as it should be. Please continue so that we don't have any more, so that there isn't a traitorous route for white females to take. Just all under the bus with the white males. And it's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing to see. We hope we see more of that. And then we have this video from Won't Pack Down, which I swear I have made about, 10 or 12 searches to find out if it's a joke. But everywhere I've looked, they say it's real. So it's very telling how anti-white it is. But the response from basic bitch Republican voters out there is also telling and problematic, because we're not going to get to the recapture of our destiny if they call such blatant anti-whiteism cringe. So let's take a look, though. We're going to pull up Tucker has on Brimelow's wife. So we're going to see if we can get this to work. We're going to have a look at it. VDARE was an immigration watchdog group created by Peter Brimelow. He had been a writer for, what were some of the biggest magazines he had written for? Maybe The Economist, or a couple big mainstream entities. And he had gone a slightly bit afield from anti-whiteism. So they were like, you're fired. You're gone. And shockingly, all the complaints of, well, that's not fair, and you're not honoring your principle of diversity because I have an opinion here that others don't have. Oddly, those tactics didn't work. But Brimelow is extremely educated and affected, and seems like a nice guy. I've met him several times over the years at different conferences. And he's never been discourteous, but nor was he ever cordial. He seems, and if I'm wrong, I'm open to him correcting me. He seems to be a pedant that prizes academic peacockery above all else. And if you are not of that ilk, then he values your opinions, no matter the successes, very little. No matter what arguments you make, he values it very little. I've never spoken with him privately one-on-one, but it's been in like groups. Sometimes it's, in fact, one time it was just three of us, me, Peter, and Taylor. And other times it's been a few more people. And he seems to really not like evaluate. You don't seem like you're stuffy enough. You don't seem like you, etc., for me to give much value to what you're saying. And that's been my experience with him. But he decided to start this entity, VDARE, named after, of course, Virginia Dare. And it would be a watchdog group, but also assert that the United States was is a people. And the implication being that it's the white race. And if you're going to bring in entirely different people, it's an entirely different country. So there's value and there's a place for, in my opinion, a watchdog group. But this is not a remedy to our problem. And one of the main reasons we started talking about it at the very beginning of this roll-in, which is you don't have a white tribe, a white people to go to and warn about a threat to the tribe, if that makes sense. So talking ad nauseum about the immigration, how bad it is, how many are sneaking in, the different policies that are being employed, laws that aren't being acted upon that are in place that can stop this, double dealings or the duplicity of politicians and bureaucracies, several bureaucracies dealing with immigration and border control. All that talk lands on a population of people that are saying to themselves, I'm a selfish individualist, and where can I go to get away from this? Where can I go to find a safer, happier, healthier place for my own white ass and at most their white children? Where can we go to get away from it? So not falling upon a people that says this is a threat to my well-being because it's a threat to my people's well-being. So you have to address this. And this is obviously in, I can't remember off the top of my head, specific conversations, but I'm always talking about our people and well-being by way of our people's well-being and etc. I'm always in some way connected with that, always in some way redirecting toward what I believe we have to do if we're going to be able to act as a people for our individual well-being. So there's value there to doom document, but it's not going to save us. Doom documenting is not going to save us. Doom documenting is not going to save us. I can't believe that after generations of that failing, that I have to say it. Now, VDARE is or was the kind of entity that white people, investors, even Jewish investors saw a lot of value in. So VDARE has been known to pull in a very handsome sum. And of course, that's in part because the main man, he talks like this, you see. And if we're going to achieve anything, then you have to talk like this. And then they will write you big check. Lots of zeros. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. Lots of zeros. So if you can talk like that, and that's not, I'm not like, this is a caricature. This isn't him personally. But if you can talk like that, then your potential investors, your average dummy, your somebody with some real money to gift, they break out their checkbooks. I don't know why, but maybe because I would, if I were to have to put my money down, I would say because of all of the movies where the thinker is like this, and the guy who has the answers has some character traits analogous or identical to that. So they break out. So it's a big money entity. They do lots of appeals, or they did. And I don't begrudge them that. I'm just pointing out some facts before we look at this video. And so I think they had like a budget over the years of around like $1 million a year. Now that's not enough to, like, especially compared to some of the big conservative organizations in the country, many, many, many millions. But for alternative viewpoints, like America is a people, and I don't know that they would define it as just white people or not. But obviously there was a concern for white people, which is why Letitia James, oh yeah, the same Letitia in New York, decided that she was going to bankrupt VDARE. And that's why, rather than be bankrupted, they just decided to back out, shutter the operation. So let's go ahead and have a look. And this is Brimelow's wife. I don't know what her name is, but I'm sure Tucker will tell us here in a moment. All right.
Illegal immigration into the United States is at its highest levels ever. Tens of millions of people have come here illegally over the past 15 years, and none of them will ever leave. Mostly they come from the poorest countries on the planet. We don't know anything about them, really. We don't know if they're pro-America. We don't.
I hate this conservative mealy mouth stuff. I mean, I'm waiting for him to, Papa Johnson out of his mouth. It's so pathetic. It's like, oh, we don't know out there. Look, they're non-white anti-whites. They're like breaking into the country. What more do you need to know? Just say it. We don't know if they're pro-America, or we don't. Why would they be pro-America? How could they be pro-America? Can everybody hear him okay?
Don't know if they're hostile to the people who already live here. We don't know.
White Calling says Peter Brimelow lives in a castle in Virginia, I think. It's West Virginia. And he did. He received and does live in a castle. He received a very large financial gift from a Jewish donor that he turned around and paid cash for this castle.
In the case of the recent arrivals, what they're going to do for a living as robotics eliminate low-skilled jobs.
Yeah, that's really what my concern is. What are they going to do for a living? How can we let them be? I mean, you all can see how that's beating around the bush of the reality. Just say it like it is, Tucker. We don't want to be a non-white South American country. These are all arguments for the selfish, all abstractions for the selfish individualist.
So what's happening right now at the border, though it's often mentioned on TV, is really undersold as a story. This is changing America forever, and almost certainly for the worse, as we're watching it, and no one is doing anything about it. The governor of Texas occasionally makes noises about it. It's over his border that,
you know, the one of the most obvious things to me, and what is excruciatingly baffling to so many, especially around the world, is why would America kill itself? Why would America commit suicide like this? And especially abroad, they're thinking about the white population here. And the answer is very clear. There is no white tribe. There is no white people. So there are no white people to step up and say, this is our country. You're not going to take it. You have selfish individualists that, since conservatives have turned abstractionized everything, you have the commons, and nobody takes care of the commons. And that's what you end up having. That's why nobody is stopping the border from being overran.
this human wave is flowing, and yet he's taken no real steps to stop it. There are some media outlets that let you know that it's happening in general terms, but they don't seem particularly outraged by it. We're sitting here as our country is destroyed and no one's responding. And at some point you have to ask, why?
We just answered it.
Are the majority of Americans in favor of this? Of course not. In fact, no one's in favor of this. No one will defend this in public. No one will explain why.
America has been abstractionized, Tucker. And you have the tragedy of the commons. This is what happens to abstractions. It doesn't belong to white people. Have had our ownership of America beaten out of us. That's why we're not responding. Do you really think, if you go back a couple of generations, do you really think the white America of say during or just prior to the start of World War II, do you really think that they would have said, to the border just being flooded like this? White Americans back then, even though anti-whiteism had been divesting them of America for a very long time, there were still enough of them that considered America their property. It's theirs. They create it. They fight for it. They live it. And so they would have responded. White people today, no white person today can honestly get up and has not only the courage, but the fanaticism of an owner that has been victimized, that has had an injustice done upon him, and would stand up without righteous fury and say, America is mine. You are not coming in. We are getting rid of I don't care how brown, I don't care how brown cow, I don't care how non-white they are. I'm kicking them the out. I don't care how gay they are. I don't care how trans they are. I don't care how much they're hunted by alien predators in their mother country, whatever it is. You're getting the out because this is mine. White people have been divested of America. You're not going to hear anything this smart anywhere else. So count your lucky stars.
We need it, why it's a good idea, how it's going to help this country, how your grandchildren will live in a better place because of it. People are just silent, like it's not even happening. And again,
tragedy of the commons, Tucker.
And you have to ask why. And the answer, of course, is really simple, because they're afraid. They know they'll be punished if they say anything about it.
No, the fear of being victimized by anti-whiteism is definitely part of it. But the fact that white people no longer believe that they own it is the biggest part. That's how everything is lost. It's divested by way of an abstraction. It becomes the commons, and then we just watch as the commons goes to shit. The only thing that you're left with, if you're a white person, is your house, your yard, your car. Those things are yours for now.
The story of Peter and Lydia Brimlow explains why they're afraid. Peter Brimlow has been a journalist for 50 years, worked at a whole bunch of what are now called mainstream publications, was an editor there, Barron's, Forbes, National Review, Dow Jones, a legitimate old school journalist. And in the late 90s, he began to ask questions about our immigration scheme. Is this really a good idea? Is it helping America? And of course, no one could answer those questions because the answer is obvious. No, it's destroying America, as it destroyed California. So it will destroy your state. That's certain. But for asking that question, he was fired from his jobs and shunted off into what we call the fringes. But he didn't stop. He started a website called VDARE.com. He runs it now with his wife, Lydia. And for the crime in the supposedly free country of opposing the immigration system currently in place, not the official system, but the actual system, where anyone from the poorest parts of America with no skills whatsoever can come here and immediately go on welfare, that's our current system. For saying that that's a bad idea, powerful forces have tried to destroy their lives, not just their lives, the lives of their family, using the justice system to do it. And needless to say, you probably guessed this, using something called the Southern Poverty Law Center, which has nothing to do with the South or poverty. It has to do with shutting down free speech in this country. They have descended on the Brimlows and have really kind of tried to destroy them. That's not an overstatement, but you judge for yourself, because Lydia Brimlow, who helps run VDARE, joins us now to explain what's happened to her. Lydia, thanks so much.
All right, I think I'm going to open the space. And I don't know that I'll give anybody, I mean, maybe y'all, if you'd like to say something later, but I'm going to go ahead and start the space. So that we can have that going as well. Lydia Brimlow with Tucker Carlson.
Thanks for coming on. So,
thank you so much, Tucker. It'll be very nice to have our story told.
So
what's interesting is I think he's like, Peter is like 80. And Lydia is late 30s. So good on Peter. Good on Peter.
I have known your husband sort of since he was not a controversial figure at all. And he became a controversial figure when he began to say things like, hey, why are we doing this? And he was immediately called a white nationalist, a white supremacist. And I remember very well his response, which is, no, I'm not. And if I was, I'd say so. But that kept up, and he wound up publishing with you VDARE online. That would seem not a particularly controversial thing to do in a free country, but for your family, it's been a very risky thing to do. So I hope that you will just, if you would, explain to us what the government, we'll start with the government, is trying to do to you for daring to oppose the immigration system.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's hard to believe. Everybody who hears this story says it's completely incredible. Peter founded VDARE Foundation, which has its main project of VDARE.com back in the late 90s. As you said, we're in our 25th year now, and I joined about 10 years ago. I do the fundraising and the back office work, and he handles everything that goes up on the website, VDARE.com. We're a nonprofit journalism enterprise, so everything that we do, all of our people are paid through generous donations from individuals. I can tell you we don't get any government grants or big foundation grants either. It's all just grassroots. And we're veterans of cancel culture at this point. So
too bad. Using their locutions, use their terminology, legitimize their ideology. You're just canceled. You're just canceled. It's like a TV show. You went bad. Sometimes things got to be canceled.
We've been kicked off a lot of mainstream services that most people use to distribute the media that they produce. And that is nothing compared to what we're facing right now, which started about 2 years ago. originating out of the Hate Crimes Division in the state of New York. A series of subpoenas were issued by Letitia James, first to Facebook, which I can explain a little bit in a minute, and then to us and our board members at VDARE Foundation, with no clear trigger. They have refused to tell us what they're investigating. It's been 2 years.
Well, see, this is the thing. And I don't know how many times, I guess, she's going on to Tucker. She has to say this. I don't know if it's something that she's said numerous times before, but it's going the direction of it's not fair because we haven't actually done something wrong, that's superfluous and facile. I mean, no shit. Welcome to reality.
Years of us just being crushed under this burden of investigation. The subpoenas were like 47 points each. They want us to turn over essentially every document that we have interacted with since 2016. And
Mike's asking about the preferred nomenclature for canceled, white erased.
For a small organization, at our peak, we had 4 full-time employees. Right now we have 2. That's Peter and myself. This has just been an absolutely crushing burden. And I will say the Facebook subpoena was interesting because we had actually been kicked off of Facebook years previous. So we have not even been on Facebook to interact with Facebook in.
It's the indignities and the injustices are limitless. The distance from that which is legitimate and fair is so colossal that you have no idea how many times different platforms over the past 7 years or roughly now of streaming, you have no idea how many conversations I've had with them where they have given me a strike, they've taken videos away, they've taken channels down, they kicked me off of platforms, banks kicking me off, can't use this pay app anymore, you can't use. And in so many, I guess really all to some degree of the cases, it's been wildly, just like wildly. YouTube has deleted videos for things that I didn't say, I didn't do, weren't in the video. And then to make matters even more, maybe just insulting, have a converse with me, and then say, yeah, recognize that you didn't actually do that. Video is still deleted, still get a strike. That's how unfair the real world is for white people. I mean, we cannot spend more generations of pointing out that anti-whites aren't fair to us or not fair with us. And I totally get how much it's wretched. It's just they had a this Watchdog group going. It was a good thing. They got a family. They've got children. They're putting meals on the table. And then Letitia James out of the government. I know that's supposed to be. It's been white erased though. I know it's supposed. I get it. I know it is wretched. And I feel for them like I feel for everybody else. I feel for this Lydia. I feel for Peter. Just like I feel for everybody else who's treated unfairly because they're like, excuse me, it's not exactly right to victimize us on the basis of our birth and to white erase us from our countries. I get it. But we've got to deal with the reality of that is the way it is. That is the way it is. So let's take stock of the lay of the land. This is how the anti-whites operate, and let's move forward.
In many years, and they were asking for all of the data that VDARE had ever accumulated, created while we were on Facebook, which we had incidentally also requested. VDARE was kicked off Facebook the same day that every one of the people involved in our organization was kicked off, including myself. I had never posted anything political online at all, but they took all my baby pictures, the video of my daughter's first steps, which was not saved anywhere else. Facebook still has that. They have in fact told my lawyers that we are too dangerous to get our data back, including my daughter taking her first steps. So that was the first subpoena that
Obviously sickening.
Letitia James through the hate
May,
crimes
may,
division,
may I ask you to pause for one
issued.
moment and just clarify something? So Facebook has called
Sure.
you too dangerous to possess your own baby pictures. Has VDARE advocated
Right. I mean,
violence? Is there something we're missing for terrorism?
never.
God, so insipid. He knows. And this is supposed to, he's a top journalist. This is supposed to be this profound, insightful series of questions. Am I missing something? Have you been cutting people up with chainsaws? What is happening? Oh, you didn't, did you? So they're just unfair little lefties. Yes, that's what they are. Unfair little lefties.
Direction, killing people?
Never.
Okay. Sorry.
No,
I just want to clarify that.
We've never even been accused of doing that, right? I mean, people use these scare smear words all the time: white nationalist, white supremacist, racist, xenophobe, whatever the flavor of the day is. So we get accused of being those things all the time, which we would argue we are not. But violence is something we have never been associated with. We're even careful to talk about the national.
So you don't argue with an anti-white that you are not their synonyms of evil, because to them, you're white, you exist. You're producing more of white people potentially, but also projecting your instinct as a white person into the world that creates Western culture and therefore Western civilization, Western countries. You are the target of an anti-white. When an anti-white says that you're evil, you point out that they're anti-white, how evil they are. And then you, as clearly as you possibly can, project to prospects that you would like to become readers or investors or etc., exactly what you are. You don't have to go to them and say what you are not. Just go to them and say what you are and make that as clear and as accessible as possible.
Divorce because of what implications.
White Arts Now says that my t-shirt is cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
That might have. I mean,
Yes.
we're living in a very high tension environment right now politically. And I think it's important that people choose their words very carefully and choose their actions very carefully. I think it's entirely justified that a large portion of the American population feels drawn to activism right now, but it needs to be chosen very carefully.
Yes.
And once you destroy something, you can't take it back. And our enemies
right.
should remember that too.
We don't have enemies, we have victimizers.
Once they destroy us, what are they going to do then? But to go back to...
Who cares? You know how many times over the years I have been at meetings and conferences, private conversations with people in the white sympathetic sphere, and they're like, well, what after us? Who fucking cares what after us? Why would you even consider that for a moment? It's just like to abstractionize to the nth degree. I will question, how far does their evil go? How far after we're gone do they victimize other people? Because other people are the ones that matter. So that's telling you about the presence of the anti-white. So it's like, tell me about the presence of the anti-white narrative without specifically telling me about the presence of the anti-white narrative. So infected with, and you would think somebody as erudite as Brimelow would, and you know, I don't know to what degree, you know, I and my work and all of us have been hidden from him. But I mean, I know staff members, or at least former staff members now, but I don't know to what degree. But you would think this would be something that he would want to investigate, right? If he heard of us to whatever degree, and the work that we're doing, the successes that we're having, you would think he would say, wow, let's tell the world about that. But it's too late now. Imagine they'll hurt valuable people after us.
The subpoenas, we have our mainstream, when I say mainstream, what I mean is like in normal times when VDARE is just surviving cancel culture and putting out this message that demography is destiny and that America is legitimate and real, that we're a true culture and we have a national identity that's worth defending, and that immigration has massive negative effects that nobody's talking about. Our operation is about $800,000 a year. In the last 12 months, we've had to spend $500,000 just complying with the subpoenas.
All right. So there's a longer conversation over there on Tucker. If you would like to see the rest of that, we're not going to go through that, though. We're going to put Peter Bremelo up there himself and hear what he has to say about all of this. I totally sympathize. It's a wretched, horrible thing. That something he organized back in 1999 and it was very successful, VDARE. That, it's kind of like when you build something like that, and it's like what we've built here, it's like children, the entity itself, the work itself. And then it's like having your offspring killed before your eyes. So I sympathize in that. In fact, I think he's actually going to talk about somebody he knows right at the beginning that lost a child recently, which is beyond words, obviously. So let's see.
Hello, I'm Peter Bremelo. Someone I know just lost his daughter. She was exactly the same age as my son, Alexander. We have pictures of them together as babies. Obviously, losing VDARE.com is nothing compared to that. But it still hurts. In a couple of days, the VDARE website will be suspended. We're not sure how long the archives will remain up, or if they'll remain up, although our social media will still be accessible. My role here as editor of VDARE.com for the last 25 years has been destroyed. So I'm going to resign, and I'll also be resigning from the VDARE Foundation.
By the way, this is, it's been happening in the white sympathetic sphere. I've been privy to it. It feels like countless times. Not groups as big as the $800,000 million a year operating budget, but a lot of groups wiped out by anti-whites and anti-whiteism. And that's one of the things that with the Go Free stratagem, we're trying to prevent. All of this is preventable with a white population that sees its individual well-being by way of its group well-being.
My wife, Lydia, will remain for the present as president of the VDARE Foundation. She'll be in charge of winding things down and, of course, paying lawyers. One bright spot is that the Berkeley Springs Castle, which is where I'm filming this, is a separate foundation, a West Virginia-based foundation. So that will continue. There will continue to be dissident conferences here, and also a number of normie functions, for example, weddings, if any of you want to get married. And
so now they're in the venue business, weddings for anybody, but they'll also entertain dissident conferences. For how long, I don't know, because now this is a new undertaking, a new business, and we know the pressure that's put on venues to not do business with quote unquote dissident groups.
Defy the Great Replacement. VDARE.com was a highly successful operation, particularly after Lydia solved the problem of us having our conferences cancelled by hotels, which she did by buying this Berkeley Springs Castle right here. But VDARE has been murdered by the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James. She's not charged us with anything, it's important to note. She simply battered us to death with an enormous, ongoing, intrusive, quote-unquote, investigation. The liberal law professor Jonathan Turley recently described New York State under Letitia James as the land that law forgot. That's because of her unprecedented, unscrupulous, unprincipled attacks against the NRA, the National Rifle Association, and of course, notorious against Donald Trump. And
that's funny for Noel. Letitia James, professional doorknob sucker. Yeah, none of what she's doing is ethical, moral, and most of it, from my readings of law scholars, is illegal. But it doesn't matter. Welcome to the anti-white hell that we live in. That's all been white erased. Those are rules out of the rule. And it's amazing that explicit white sympathetics will mock implicit white sympathetics for their adherence to the rules and their willingness to play by the rules, while their opposition writes new rules whenever they want to and defeats them every 2 years in election. No worries, knocks them down every time. Defeats the legislation, easily knock it right down by writing new rules. And then these explicit white sympathetics, people that acknowledge race, for example, they then do the same thing. They're like, they're not playing by the rules. How are they being so unethical?
of course, against VDARE.com. The VDARE Foundation has been registered in New York State, alas, since 1999. We did that at a time when nobody had ever heard of lawfare or of Letitia James. We estimate that we spent $1 million in compliance costs, as well as scores, maybe hundreds of hours of sheer work put into assembling documents and dealing with this subpoena. All work that we can't spend on advancing the cause of patriotic immigration reform. She's obviously aiming at suppressing our speech, but we've been totally unable to get any relief from the New York courts, no defense whatever of our First Amendment rights.
No surprise.
I want to add, though, that there are three other interlocking issues which are also driving us to suspension. The first one is the extraordinary wave of cancellation that we've experienced increasingly over the last several years. It extends even to personal matters like how long
persecution, exploitation, discrimination, white erasure. All of those in our lived experience have strong negative connotation. White erasure new, but immediately assimilable and functioning the same way, primarily by way of the word erasure. But using their cancel, I guarantee you, if anti-whites in the future, if they were to call murdering white people, canceling them, white people will use cancel for murder. They will just follow right along. And then I'll be standing there with you all, a group of you all, this elite group, wondering what in the world, as this storm of a dark epoch in human history surrounds us.
Long-time financial advisor who's been with us 15 or 16 years was forced to drop us recently. People don't understand what is actually going on here, how this so-called social credit system like the Chinese have is being used to suppress patriots. Lydia's going to post a very long discussion of it, surely, which is, frankly, I think, a historical document, because nobody's reporting this stuff. If we had time and the resources, we could continue to face down this cancellation, even though it's getting increasingly difficult. But we don't have the time.
Anglo-Saxon NWG pointing out that the quote-unquote anti-woke would immediately start calling the execution of us for being born white, would immediately call that being canceled.
And we don't have the money. The second interlocking problem I mentioned is somewhat similar, and that's our abrupt inability to accept online payments. It hit us in the middle of our year-end appeal in December, and that's when we raised most of our money. Now, in the past, when we've had credit card payment systems go down on us, we assume it's like, for example, with PayPal, we assume that it's the credit card processor that's at fault. But subsequently, and this year, we've been working with GabPay, who would not do that to us. It turns out that the problem is the banks. Even when the payment processor wants to work with us, the banks won't. And in fact, we don't think it is the banks in the end. We think it's the federal regulators. Federal regulators are bringing pressure on banks to suppress unwelcome speech, just as they're bringing pressure on them to stop gun sales and so on. Again, this is something that's going to require legislation to suppress this viewpoint discrimination.
No. There is going to be no legislation. And no legislation would stop it. Because legislation is way downstream from moral tapestry of the country.
And to allow freedom of speech to return to America. So I urge President Trump and Vice President Vance to get onto this, end viewpoint discrimination with federal legislation. And the third interlocking problem is the weirdest of all.
Trump is not even talking about the censorship on social media anymore. That's not a talking point for Susie Wiles and Chris LaCivita.
We've been subject to extraordinary cyber attacks. We can't figure out where they're coming from, but they're extremely agile. They were the things that knocked out our ability to accept e-checks. Our tech is a baffle. They say there's obviously somebody behind, there's a human intelligence behind it, probably using AI. But nevertheless, somebody's working away on this. Of course, in a sane world, we would go and complain to the FBI about it. But they're probably doing it. Obviously, we don't want to get involved with the FBI at all. There is still litigation in federal court. Quite how we got involved with litigation in federal court and state court simultaneously is a long and extremely...
Marlene pointing out the truth that the mores of our people prevented things like lawfare, but that's been white erased. And so now lawfare is the norm.
Depressing story, but there we are. Otherwise, we're just waiting for Letitia James. We've handed over all these documents she says she wants at enormous expense. What is she going to do? We've done nothing wrong, but maybe we should prosecute the foundation anyway. Maybe we should prosecute Lydia and myself personally anyway. We just...
Yeah. All that. I mean, maybe the moment that, well, first of all, leaving it in New York, the foundation based in New York, was not the wisest course, especially as you became increasingly high profile. Should have wrapped it up and then started it someplace else. But certainly by the time Letitia James sent out that first paperwork, I just shut that whole thing down, started up again in a state like West Virginia, where you still have a little bit of room, a little bit of time left.
Just don't know. And what about me? Well,
I mean, he's like 80. So, I mean, and it's been since 99. So you can't expect, he's fought the good fight.
Of course, I'm deeply sad. And not really for me.
Fernol says, wait, that guy with the young chick? Yes. That guy.
The end of VDARE is like the collapse of a small civilization. There's a surprising number of people who've been working with it for a long time, in some cases 20 years, who are dependent on VDARE, who are never going to find work in the mainstream media. I feel very bad for them. I feel in some ways even worse about the generation, this new generation of young immigration patriots that suddenly sprung up, who I was hoping to integrate into the operation and ultimately to hand over to them, a functioning and well-funded organization. I guess that's not going to happen now. The irony is that the issue of immigration patriotism has never been hotter. Opinion polls are out of control in favor of immigration restriction.
And so why then is the tide not being stemmed? We talk about it here all the time, and we have the remedy for it. That's why.
In fact, even deportation, which the political class doesn't even want to think about, is very popular among ordinary grassroots Americans. I'd like to think that VDARE.com.
I mean, just think about it for a moment. Can you really argue successfully that you have a border and you have a country to a population that has divested themselves of the country because of the anti-white, immoral, moral imperative? Even the Republican Party, for many decades, has been referring to America as an idea. An idea, not a people. It's an idea. So, and then they act like saying that America is an idea rather than a people somehow makes it more sacred. It's the same thing that happens with the pedantic prattlers who abstractionize everything. They act like they've somehow elevated their argument by divesting it of a people. But of course, it doesn't. You just make the idea vulnerable to being undermined, vulnerable to attack. You make it violable.
Has played a part in that development. But of course, I'd much rather continue to participate.
He's got some great blue eyes, doesn't he? Look at his eyes. Great head of hair.
In urging it forward. And personally, well, I'm looking at a very large VDARE.com shaped hole. I've worked on VDARE.com essentially every day for 25 years. That's a third of my life.
Wow.
I don't know what I'm going to do next.
See, that's what I'm telling you. It's just like, it's like having a child or children just obliterated.
And even if I did, I'm not sure what I could say about it in the current legal environment. I guess I won't have any excuse not to take my daughters on the 4-H camping trip. So I want to thank all of you who've been...
What was that? What was that like little smile like, boy, that's going to be fun. Like he's 80, he's going to drag himself. How good is that going to feel? The 4-H camping trip. I hope he's glamping.
Been with us for so long. And we hope to see you on the other side.
God bless him. You know, God bless him. I don't know if you all, tag me as No White Guilt if you have anything to say about this. But God bless him. He's an extremely bright guy, very well educated, obviously just generally a polite person. He pulled himself a much younger, attractive woman, has had a wonderful family, produced a wonderful family of beautiful white kids with her. And he's been working on this, you know, as he said, for a giant chunk of his life. So God bless him for that. That doesn't mean that he is beyond error. We're all fallible. And I have something that succeeds, that works, that I wish in the past, I would have liked in the past, that he, with his credibility, would have given some time to, would have given some attention to. Maybe we would have, by now, created a bit of a better environment in which you could doom document about the border and talk about America as a people, the white race. But no, it didn't happen. You know, instead, we are this elite group, rather than having a much broader interest and appeal. Before we move on, tag me as No White Guilt if you have something to say about it. Otherwise, we will get into white women being thrown out of the recipients of the goodies of anti-whiteism. And of course, it's been going on now for many, many years. but it's reaching a new fever pitch every couple of years or so. I'll take a quick look to see if we have any financial gifts as well. Let's give it up for a guy that I can't say enough good about. If there's going to be somebody who's going to find a way, it's going to be No White Guilt Clips. He's over there on Cash App, financially gifting $100. God bless you, man. We're going to make sure that you are in the history books for all time. There will be generations that come to know about you and your work for white well-being. Well done. Let's get some quadruple 07s, some raucous emojis for this hero. He's over there alone on Cash App, as it sounds like some crotch rockets zip on by. You know, another guy that keeps showing up to the battle. It's like Lord of the Rings, you know, you line up there with the king. We all line up there with the king, and there are certain people that you know are going to show up and stand shoulder to shoulder with you. And we have Dude Bro Moment over here on Entropy, all by his lonesome $50 for white well-being. Let's give both of these champions huge hurrahs and celebration. Dinosaurs, raucous emojis, 96s and crowns for the heroes that are out there busy heroing. Keep heroing, champions. Well done. Thank you so much. Spin around to here. That's on Entropy, which is Dude Bro Moments, quadruple 07's platform. I don't see, well, let's refresh and make sure. Let's see anything under the thread. There's a comment there. Let's see if Twitter will show me it. Somebody, Robert, says, I heard about you through Tree of Logic. We had a conversation, and she suggested we get in touch. This is what we talked about. All right, I'll check it out after the stream, Robert. Thank you for reaching out. Tree of Logic, really cool gal. And she and I would probably be doing a little bit more of shows together if it weren't for the kind of flack that she receives for talking to me. We have Spartan over there on D Live, 2 lemons of cryptocurrency, and writes, it took me 3 years of training in, what is that? Oh, Muay Thai. To have a, is that serious kick and punch? I went to training no matter what. Well, that's what we have to do here when it comes to, there's a big difference between knowing the path and walking the path. I'm talking about the go free practice. You can know the path and not walk it. You have to have the knowledge and the practice, and then you become skilled. That's how it is with everything. And the work that Spartan has done in Muay Thai is a great example of that. Thank you so much. Looks like we're blank over here on Odyssey. Remember, tag me as No White Guilt. Nameless One is here. Thank you all for celebrating these 2 champions. Look at this celebration for these heroes. God bless y'all. Great. There's Sloths. Great to see you, brother. Rune is here. Hello to you. Brianna is here. Brianna's asking, what's the point of this? Of talking about VDARE going defunct? There are a lot of points. A lot of reasons to talk about it. And, in and of itself, it's VDARE is going down as like another fallen soldier. Linda is here. Hello and welcome. It's like another fallen soldier that obliquely, although in a explicit white sympathetic way, was discussing one avenue of the way that Western kind is victimized by anti-whiteism, and that is by way of the immigration, the intrusion by anti-white non-whites. All right, we have up next to talk about white women. I just don't see many white women being willing to go this direction. Let's see if we can find it. Is that it? Ain't it? Oh, why is it not coming up? Microphone and video all still working fine, I presume and hope. There we go. That's it. Former teacher during the Women for Hera Zoom calls says white women should not correct people of color and need to check their privilege. One of the airlines, there is a policy, I can't recall which airline it was, that females and other privileged groups, non-whites, trans, and etc., that they can't be questioned in the traditional way that was done in the airline when there are threats to safety and things. There's a different protocol. There was a different protocol implemented because they viewed that method of immediately calling out an error that is dangerous as something that hurt their feelings, right? So it had to be white erased. I can't believe this is not a parody. Mrs. Frazzled practically called on white women to bow down to BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, women during the call. So in other words, non-whites. Quote, BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step in, listen, and get involved this election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good. Squeal from beneath their feet. As white women, we need to use our privilege, your white privilege, from as being walked on, to make positive change. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for non-white, she's saying BIPOC, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat, and instead we can put our listening ears on. What does take a beat? So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who so become sycophantic, become a truckler to non-white people. That's your job now as a white woman. Historically, but let's see, amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. That's all anti-whiteism. Systemic change. As anti-white as the West is today, this white woman, along with plenty of other anti-white white women, are calling for systemic change. It's not anti-white enough, and it never is, never will be. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn, she tells you. Could you imagine this being your mother, and she's lecturing you as a white child? You're like 6, 7 years old, and you're like, you have ruined the world. You've got a lot to learn. So do check your blind spots. Wow. Let's hear what she has to say in her own words.
Of over 1.5 million followers, is here to help gentle parents.
So this woman has 1.5 million followers. Oh boy.
Just through this election.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to speak today. I am like shaking to just be among such incredible company. We are here because, as if you were here earlier, you've heard BIPOC women have tapped us in as white women to step up, listen, and get involved.
And so white women, you're no longer important, white ladies. So maybe stop being anti-white now. Stop instantiating anti-whiteism in your relationships, in the home. Stop rearing your children with anti-whiteism. You're not special anymore. You're tapped in to obey and serve non-white people, people on the basis of their birth.
Election season. This is a really important time, and we all need to use our voices and influence for the greater good, no matter who.
The greater good. Is that for the greater good of the white race, white children, white males? How is it good for us?
Who you are all influencers in some way. So tonight, I'm going to share some do's and don'ts for getting involved in politics online and navigating the toxicity that comes with
the toxicity. Anything, toxicity, translation for anti-whites, anything that's not anti-white enough.
it. And spoiler alert, as much as the toxicity can come from the outside, it can come from us too.
So there you have this very, and we talk about this from time to time, this very religious aspect, this faith-based aspect, that you are innately evil by being born white. It's inside of you. It's part of your being. And so you have to do this incessant introspection and incessant self-loathing and public abasement as a white person to be legitimate in the anti-white narrative, even white women now. And of course, like I said, it's been that way for quite a while. In fact, I mean, for my whole life, for your whole life, this isn't new. But it's all because you're dealing with society is composed of individuals. And so all of it is incremental. So it just gets broader. It's like mold growing in a petri dish. It's not like everywhere. It's a little bit here, or anthrax growing in a petri dish. It's a little bit here and a little bit there and a little bit there. And it slowly grows until it encompasses the petri dish.
So first, don't isolate yourself. We can do our best.
Rosca Rise is here and she says, the fake sweetness. This is the person that will pull the lever on the guillotine for you. Okay, you haven't been like introspective enough. And so this is really going to hurt, especially since they say that you continue to think and feel pain for like 10 to 15 seconds after we actually decapitate you. But here it goes. Yay. For anti-whiteism.
Best work when we're in community together like we are tonight, because the toxic feels smaller when we support each other. But
so that which is not anti-white enough feels smaller when we come together to burn it all down.
Don't make it about yourself.
If you're white, don't make it about you. Even if you're a white female, it's for the greater good, which means it's for non-white people. Translation, it's for non-white people. Greater good means non-white people.
As white women, we need to use our privilege to make positive changes. If you find yourself talking over or speaking for BIPOC individuals, or God forbid, correcting them, just take a beat. And
take a beat. That must be some kind of a new dumbass slang. Take a beat. Take a beat. Maybe they start playing rap music or something, and they start playing rap beats on the desk or something. Take a beat and shut up. In fact, get on your back for them.
Instead, we can put our listening ears on. So do learn from and amplify the voices of those who have been historically marginalized, and use the privilege you have in order to push for systemic change. As white people, we have a lot to learn and unlearn. So do check your blind spots. You are responsible for your algorithm, believe it or not.
Of over 1.
Wow. You are responsible for check your blind spot. So in other words, even if you don't see where you have thought anything that wasn't anti-white enough, or even if you've never done anything that wasn't anti-white enough, if you're white, you're still not anti-white enough. And look at her with her big smile about it. Torture the white kids, put all the white men out of work. And what is it that the anti-whites think about white men? What is it that they see when they think about white men? What is it that you have seen in the entertainment? How do they portray white men? Well, you have this don't or won't pack down. So witty. And they put together this video. I found did I pull it up or no? An article on it. Actually, I found a couple, but I don't know if it's worth reading or not. This is what they think of you. This is what they think of all white men. And this is what they have been teaching us by way of entertainment for generations, by way of marketing for generations. White guys are losers. They're inept. They're goofy. They're hate-filled. They're gross. They're dirty. And if they are ever suaviloquent, if they are ever put together, if they are ever handsome, it's because they're mass murderers. And their property in their basement is full of a bunch of dead bodies. If you are if you're an ordinary looking white guy, just go look at all of the entertainment media for psychotic serial killers. You don't find what you find in reality when you look at psychotic serial killers. Statistically, it's not white males. Just go ahead and look. And when they are a white male, you need to investigate their sexual proclivities, because you're not looking at a group dominated serial killers by ordinary, healthy white males. But of course, anti-whites making the entertainment, that's who they're going to demonize. So let's have a look at this. And to me, of course, we know that the anti-whites think this way about us. To me, the big shocker is the fact that it won't matter how bad it gets. Without us, without the Go Free practice, nothing is going to replace the interpretation that your basic bitch white person, Republican voter, or what have you, nothing will replace how they interpret, because they look at everything through the lens of selfish individualism. Oh my God, it's real, says Spitfire. Kamala's PAC legit produced this and actually thought it was a good idea to release it. This is pure cringe. Cringe. This is some of the most vile, explicit anti-whiteism I've ever seen.
Us MAGA Republicans banned abortion, but that's just the start.
That's just the start. If Trump gets elected, we want the government involved in all aspects of your sex life.
Okay, so before we go any further, not all of these people might be white, right? We'll just put that on the table. But they all are perceived as white males. So I don't care what they identify as. They're all perceived as white males. And it starts off, we want to be in your sex life.
Way more involved.
Way more
Look at this guy.
involved.
When you have sexual...
And they're all sweating, and they have, like, the one guy has like a giant, like, cold sore on his mouth or something.
intercourse, it should be illegal to use contraception. No pills, no condoms.
Your genitals are reserved for procreation.
If you freeze 12 eggs, you should be required to have...
Look at this guy's all, and the sweat gets worse as it goes on. This is a PAC. I mean, I looked all over. If somebody can tell me that this won't pack down is fake or whatever, I've looked all over. I found articles where they are celebrating it, and they've got another video that's totally legit.
Have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. These 12 eggs, you should be required to have 12 babies, or else you're a serial killer. And I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
See, there you go with the, isn't that interesting? I didn't even realize when I was talking about the serial killer thing, the guy's actually saying, and I'm not a serial killer. The white guy, serial killer.
You?
My son monitors my porn usage to make,
and I'm definitely not a serial killer.
Are you?
My son
a big look at this scary smile. This is white males in the anti-white narrative. We're a little fucking pissed off about being portrayed this way. We're a little fucking pissed off that white women, by way of the entertainment, have concluded by far and large that this is a white male, that no matter what he looks on the outside, this is what he is on the inside. This giant cold sore on the mouth. And he's like, are you a serial killer?
monitors my porn usage to make sure I'm not self-pleasuring.
Just like Speaker of the House Mike Johnson. That's true. You can look it up.
Don't you think that?
I don't know if Mike Johnson said that his son monitors his porn usage to make sure that he's not self-pleasuring. Anti-whites in charge of the Republican Party, anti-whites in charge of the Democrat Party.
That's normal.
Yeah, I do.
It's normal for your son to do that.
You should have a family member monitor your porn use too.
Because pleasuring yourself is very, very naughty.
Look at this.
I'm voting in November.
I'm voting in November. We're all voting in November. Are you?
Because what happens in your bedroom is up to me.
Is up to me and my son. Also, mouth stuff is a sin.
Sickening. It's not cringe. It is anti-white as all hell. They're telling you what's in their heart of hearts when it comes to white men. And what are, I don't know, maybe millions of white people saying about this? I mean, the representative sample that I saw on Twitter indicates that they're all looking at this and saying it's cringe. And what I think is worse even than it's cringe is you guys are the real weirdos. By the way, everybody's talking about this weird that suddenly Democrats and reporters across the board are using for Trump and Vance. And they're acting as though this is some brilliant strategy that's being implemented, when it seems to me what happened was Kamala referred to Trump and Vance as weird. That was her criticism. And of course, that's extraordinarily childish and superficial and vacuous and apparent to all adults how insipid and substanceless that her criticism and therefore thinking actually is. And so to cover up for her, to protect her from those obvious deductions, leftists, Democrats, anti-whites are moving heaven and earth to reiterate that weird is a legitimate criticism of these people. That's how it appears to me. But what do you all have to say? Who paid for this ad, says LG. Won't pack down. They're on Instagram. They're on Twitter. They probably have a Facebook. They direct you to give donations to Act Blue, which of course is a radical anti-white entity. Yeah. Totally sickening. But what do you all have to think about that? that's where we are. Tag me as no white guilt. I'll have a look around the platforms to see if we have any financial gifts or if we have any tags for yours truly, or if we have any requests from Mike on the Twitter space. And then we're going to roll out let me refresh over here. And here. Great to see all of you who came out for the roll-in. And everybody who participated this evening. All right, let me check here. We'll come back around to, all right, didn't miss anybody. See if there's anything new over here. Hello from Rumble, writes, who's? Hello to you. Hello back. Over here on the live chat on Twitter, Daughter of Eve says, greetings, Jason. Great show. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Holding is applauding over there. Thank you. Good to see you. And don't see anything on Odyssey, but at least we have everything running tonight, which is good. Very good. And we have, I think it's the Great Slots has something to say. Let me see. Let me pass the microphone over to him. Yes, it is. Let me know when you have it and speak up, brother.
Hey, brother.
Hey, man, how's it going?
Going better. I was sick, so still a little bit, but going better.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling a little better.
I had just a few thoughts, not necessarily on the VDARE situation, but
okay.
I was thinking during the segment, or one of the segments, it occurred to me that you keep framing everything. I think you said specifically, explicitly, that you frame everything in the terms of our well-being. And I'm just thinking, with the white negatives, why aren't they? And that was my thought. Why aren't they? When you presenting it in our narrative is up for argument within our narrative, I don't see how they don't see that. I don't understand how they don't see that it's a net benefit to us when every single thing we maximize trying to frame with our well-being. And I just thought how I can reprimand them about that, because it's totally ridiculous. I don't like saying it's totally ridiculous. That's too simple of a reprimand for them.
Well, I agree. It's actually reprehensible to not view everything from the position from I guess, first of all, a white or Westman-centric viewpoint, and specifically with the lens of our well-being. And one of the main reasons is something we've mentioned a couple times tonight, and that's the selfish individualism, rather than the presence of a people for which they argue. So when you are an individual rather than a member of a people, you articulate that which you find problematic for you. And so at best, and this is in the best case scenarios for people in the white sympathetic sphere, is that as a selfish individualist, they express and view all things for how and where negativity of any form impacts or intersects with their lives. That's in the best case. In the worst case, they are looking for, as we've talked about before, they're customers, and they're just looking for a scapegoat to ameliorate or assuage the lack of dignity that they have, being born to a people that had created and built the West and were so glorious and now are so fallen. And they, as a consequence, are so crestfallen. So they want to say that some viper has stolen it all from them. And that's why they are so ignoble and pusillanimous. And also the excuse is to not have to do anything about it, but complain about it. So go ahead.
I was thinking of also that our well-being is the most pristine standard we can have.
Right. Oh yeah.
As a people, and the suggestion that we don't base our standards on it, just mentally rejecting that, is just a deep white noir negativity, anti-whiteism in the psyche.
1,000% correct. 1,000%. It's a very unhealthy population suffering deeply from white noir that refuses, that is willing to attack. And that's what we see when it comes to me specifically, and this community in general, practitioners of Go Free in general, is this fervid willingness to attack us for demanding that we view things from the perspective of our well-being. So you're 100% right, brother. Once again.
I have a few more things to bring up. This was a recent realization of mine with regard to conservatives, and I brought it up in chat during one of the topics with VDARE. Excuse me, but I just realized that conservatives, the Tucker laugh, I said cute the Tucker laugh after I say this, but the conservatives keep asking why non-whites don't erase their own identities like white people do, and then Tucker laugh.
Right.
Because, oh my gosh, the conservatives are like buying into the anti-whiteism and saying you have to erase your identity and it's beneficial to you.
Yeah, and it's never. Of course, they're not going to do that. When you see these like libertarian and obviously George Kermit the Frog, or Kermit the Frog Peterson, I should say, when their followers hear white people willing to or demanding, articulating that we stand together as a people, they're totally affronted, and exactly like you said, they act like this selfish individualism that is leading our people to perdition is somehow superior in a world of collectives, is somehow superior to the collective action and collective well-being of non-white groups. It's like being in an insane asylum and having to listen to the maniacs tell you about how the world is supposed to work.
Yeah, and also, they say this without any realization of the anti-white guilting, the reprehensible, just disgust. I don't know how to call it, what to call it. It's just so bad.
It is.
The psychological warfare against white people. And there's this immense social moral pressure on white people to erase their whole identity. And you don't see anything like that ever anywhere towards non-whites.
Never.
The pressure is always from the conservatives saying, "Come join us." Like, it's just disgusting. It's just disgusting. Saying to come join us and erase yourselves, and of course, it's just not going to work.
No.
I have one other thing.
Yeah.
So I thought about the white privilege meme pathogen, and I know I had already come up with something against it earlier, and I don't even remember right now. I just, got off work 2 hours ago. So I can only hold so much, but I thought of a business kind of metaphor for it, which is when it comes to white privilege, the idea is to go after the clerk for the actions of the CEO.
Right. Yes.
So I thought that might help spur some thought on meme curatives sharing that.
Well, I like that. Yeah, I think that will work as a heuristic for folks to think about it that way, engendering some good retorts. And everybody's going to, have people write me. In fact, we have over here, I'm not going to be able to do it the whole conversation, but Land of the Fake, I will take a look at that conversation you had with your mother. It's a long conversation of text messages that he has shared. And I'll take a look at it and try to find the most pertinent points. And you can share Land of the Fake in the chat over there on Odyssey. And then maybe we'll be able to address that conversation and the challenges you had in that conversation in maybe on Sunday. But yeah, please do that. As a matter of fact, I'd like to see. I had people that write and they ask sometimes in the thread, sometimes on Twitter. They'll ask, "What about this?" And this is what we're doing. I mean, this is what's important. These kinds of conversations, because we have to secure our home lives. We have to secure whatever that means, our friend circles, so that we can move. So that we can move forward and address the challenges that we face communally in our counties, in our towns, in our cities, states, etc. This is a... can everybody still hear me okay? It looks like you can. Oh, it looks like I'm still functioning all right. Oh, okay. I guess I'm still streaming with no problem. It looks like it on my end. All right. Marlene says yes. Can hear me okay. Awesome. So that's what that's what we have to do. We have to develop cultural warriors, if you will, lovers, so that they actually become champions in your world. And you can bring as many around you to white well-being as possible. And that's incremental. It's to various degrees, depending upon the people around you. And at the same time, or once you've developed some strength and practice, to larger circles in your life. All of it is replicable and scalable. And as we get more and more of our brothers and sisters to do this, the greater the success, the more rapid the expansion, and the more dramatic the change we engender in our world, so that we suddenly look around. And I mean, think about the reality of Donald Trump saying that there is an anti-white sentiment and it can't be allowed. I mean, that's something the general population of the world suddenly found as this big boon for them. We did that. And that's exactly how this is supposed to work. I've given the analogy, pardon me, of a school, and suddenly, like, numerous people in the school are using the same concepts and are standing up for their individual well-being as white people by way of the well-being of our people. And by doing this in this collective way and in this incremental way, we end up in an environment that increasingly things are possible for us. Whereas currently, nothing is possible. Nothing is going to work like the gravity we see working for anti-whites. It's like wherever they turn, they stumble and they land. They should be landing in a pile of horse waste, but instead, every time they stumble, they find themselves pulled by the gravity of anti-whiteism to landing on another gold nugget or another diamond. This is the consequence of a moral tapestry that is instantiated by anti-white ideology and victorious over the other ideologies and religions and vehicles of the past by way of the psychological warfare and the science that our brightest members and bright people from other races have produced. I mean, we are reaching a point where if the SR-71 was being carted around in like the late 1950s or whatever it was, there were no like personal calculators in people's homes and all of this kind of thing. But there was a spaceship that went so fast you can't even fathom it, that was being carted around towns as it was being taken from where they were working on it to where they would test on it. The kinds of technology that they have now that we're not aware of, we're really getting to a point where if we don't address the moral tapestry of our society, that there is no coming back from it. There is no political revolution. Nothing will be able to be done. And so that should light a fire under us to bring in as many people as we can and to communicate these concepts as widely as we can before it's too late. They grow rapidly, as you've seen, as we have demonstrated. It is empirical. So with something that works, we should have enough energy and momentum to keep our shoulder against it. I know it's not easy. It's not going to be easy because we're talking about viewing society in a completely different way, realizing that this narrative that you're in is an anti-white narrative. It's not reality. And that by way of the subconscious mind's control over our thinking, we are, by far and large, manipulated and controlled by very powerful anti-whites. So it's much more difficult to communicate an entirely new view of our world than it is to say, hey, adopt another political stratagem, draw up another flag. All of these things are superficial and, to my mind, indeed childish. Maverick says loud and clear. I guess maybe that was was the mic working? Hi, Jason. Here in England, civil war has broken out. I mean, I guess you're using that as a dysphomism for the conflict, because there is no oppositional pole for there to be. Civil war would have to be between different anti-white factions. So we don't have a pole, and we don't have a pole because we don't have a moral center. There's no moral center because of anti-whiteism. It's like with Donald Trump, and I guess we're gonna roll out of here in just a sec. Let's say with Donald Trump, when he ran for the first time, it was big time revolutionary talk, and so you could wonder, you could say, is Donald Trump really going to be a revolutionary? Is he going to implement some type of martial law? And because that is how you're going to have to deal with the anti-white population. They're not going to yield to an argument. They're not going to yield. They're going to muddle, and by way of subterfuge and assassins and red tape and illegality that they will interpret as legal, trouble anything and everything that will arrest or push back at all on anti-whiteism. So their only possibility, and it would be if Trump were to have done this when he first ran, it would have been blood-curdling, and the odds are in the end that we wouldn't win. Now he's talking about waging a legal war on the Heritage Foundation for Project 25 because they have implied that they could get you hired in the administration if you were a supporter of Project 25. He's disavowed Project 25 numerous times, which we read the key points, reads like the most basic bitch conservative take on America. Again, that it's an idea. And then big wish list things like Department of Education is defunded, and down the list of things that are just not even possible. So now you went from a Donald Trump that was talking about revolution and then got into office and couldn't even kick CNN out of the press pool, much less drop the 82nd Airborne on the border, didn't do any of the things that anti-whites are saying about him. He was in office for 4 years, and he didn't even attempt to do the kind of things that they said he's going to do in it for this coming election. And it doesn't matter to anti-whites. All that matters is that in their minds, he represents the avatar of the white race, and in effect would be at most a speed bump to anti-whiteism, not turning back any of it, but a speed bump is enough for an anti-white to determine that you are all of the synonyms of evil for them. So it's very clear at this point with the way that Donald Trump is behaving and the things that he's saying and his advisors, the two people running his campaign, that he's running a basic bitch, Republican, mealy mouth. Don't bother telling me that he's got to say this to get elected. And then he's got to do what they want in order to not be assassinated or impeached again, or impeached and removed from office, or 25th Amendmented, and whatever it is. Don't bother telling me that. We need to use, the reality is that he might not say any more of our concepts. If Susie Wiles and Chris Lasavita are in his ear and people like that moving forward, he may never again. So we have this one time that he used anti-white, and that an anti-white sentiment can't be allowed. We have to use this like we are a drowning man that has found a floaty, and spread it as rapidly and as far as we can, because that will be maybe all we end up having to communicate these ideas to millions of white people and communicate them with this legitimacy of Trump saying it. There's a possibility that in the future, maybe even during the campaign, I hate to say it, but there's a possibility, although we are still trying to swash more of these concepts into the once great Donald Trump's world so that he ends up saying in them, there's a possibility that he ends up maybe disavowing. If he's destroying Heritage Foundation, the head of the Heritage Found, or the head of the project at the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, already stepped down, and there's a possibility that they're going to scrap the whole thing. If he's willing to do that, he might come out and say some pretty damn anti-white things. I hope that's not the case, but it's not impossible. We've had a great the tools you need to make a difference in the world. Don't forget, we are live on Wednesdays around 7:50 time range Eastern. On Sundays at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We ride at 5. And that's our main gathering. We get together and we get excited and we go out into the world and we make a difference. We want you to be a hero in our story. We don't want you to be an observer. Step up to the plate, adopt the Go Free stratagem, very simple, and you'll have the colossal, the leviathanic victories in your life that practitioners have been having for years now. Look forward to seeing you there. Roll out.